incredible. I love it. Scaricatures has made it to one of the greatest filming locations in the history of cinema. The STU MACHER House from Scream, 1996. Wow. Okie dokie. All right. So I'm all got the microphone on because I wanted good sound quality while I drive. So hopefully it's not hitting this. All right. So hopefully it all works. But yeah, so I'm driving around Northern California. I'm only a few miles away from the STU MACHER House, which I just visited. And let's move this, get a little view. All right. And it was awesome. It was beautiful, you know. I can't believe it. I can't believe, you know, I made it there. It's one of the, you know, most sought after filming locations, obviously for horror fans. But shoot, I've seen a lot of different filming locations, and that was definitely one of the coolest ones. It was so surreal to like pull up on it. And again, shoot, I've got to turn around. It's so beautiful and scenic around here. And I thought, well, why not record me talking about the Scream franchise? The new film is coming out in about like a week and a half. Scream 7. It is coming. I am super excited, and the goal is to be back on the East Coast so that I can see it with my brother. Put that down there. Opening night, opening weekend, whatever. So anyway, yeah, I love the Scream films. It's one of my favorite film franchises. It might be my favorite horror franchise. It's either that or Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween, you know, Child's Play. Love those films. So, yeah. So, what do I think about the Scream franchise? I'm just going to talk a little bit about each one. And I'll talk about what I think about the new film and what's going to happen and my thoughts on everything regarding the new Scream. So, Scream 1996. I'm trying to think where I have to look. A little green dot right there. So anyway, Scream 1996 is awesome. I love it. I've always loved it. I always found it to be sort of like a comfort horror film. You know, I mean, it's not that scary, but it's got this eerie sound to it, this eerie atmosphere, and Neve Campbell's great in it. Sidney Prescott is an awesome character. All the characters are great. I think that's one reason why a lot of people love that film, especially the first film in the franchise, because the cast is just awesome. We got Sidney, Tatum, Billy Loomis, Stu Macher, Randy, and, you know, all these characters are just so well performed, and you just want to watch them. I think that's why so many people love watching, you know, Scream over and over again, is because they want to hang out with those characters. And honestly, like, I remember when I first saw it. So the only Scream films that I got to see and not be spoiled ahead of time are Scream 1, Scream 4, and 5 and 6. I pretty much, I had some things sort of spoiled with 5 and 6, but for the most part, I got to experience in cinema, in the theater, you know, who the killers were, which I do think is important. Like, I know there's people who don't care. They're like, oh, I don't care if I know beforehand, but it ruins the whole, like, the whole flow of the film, the whole chemistry. You're supposed to go into it not knowing as little as possible, and then by the end you're supposed to be wowed. Like, it's just the way it's supposed to be. So if you're somebody who can watch films, who, you know, horror, whodunits, mysteries, all that stuff, and go in like being spoiled and it doesn't do anything for you, I think you're wrong. I think you don't realize the effect that it has. But that's whatever. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, I remember seeing Scream 1 for the first time, and it was such a surprise because, you know, you figure there's one killer. You figure, oh, there's one killer who's this Ghostface character. And first of all, like, one thing I always appreciate when I watch that first film is that the voice, Roger L. Jackson, who, is the voice of Ghostface, when you watch that first film, uh, why would you think that it's a voice changer? That's part of the twist by the end, which I love, because you watch that first film and you're like, well, this is the voice of the killer. This is his voice. Why would you think it's a voice changer? They never say that at all throughout the film. It's a reveal at the end when Stu Macher, pulls the little voice box and he says, surprise, Sydney. Like that's that's a huge reveal. And the fact that there's two killers, so you get Stu Macher being the accomplice to Billy Loomis, who's kind of like it's got to be Billy, but like it's obvious in an exciting way. Like ooh, he's so good, he better be the killer. It's like one of those twists where you're watching it and you're like, all right, Billy better be the killer or whatever. He better be involved because, and he's just so weird and creepy. And so that first film, like it's hard like to replicate what that first film did, because there's nothing like going into that first film. You don't know that A, it's a voice changer. B, there's more than one killer, and you just assume right from the start that, well, the guy on the phone at the beginning, like that's the voice of the killer. So you're kind of like, well, it can't be Billy unless Billy's like throwing his voice. Like it's almost like you can't really, like, the other films don't even try to do anything as interesting as the first film. That's why some people say like, Scream 7's coming out. I'm not excited for that. I don't care for that. Blah, 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 blah. I hope they don't ruin it. It's like, you can't ruin that first film. I just want a good sequel. I'll say that about Scream 7 before, I'll get back to it in a little bit. But I just want a good sequel. I just want to be able to be, impressed by, oh, wow, that's a clever narrative, a clever way to have Ghostface re-enter Sidney Prescott's life. That's really it. I mean, could they ruin the first film? I mean, I'll get to it. Let me just finish. So Scream 1. Scream 1 I love. It's such a great film. The characters are great. The reveals are great. The soundtrack is great. It's just an all-around awesome horror film. And I think had they not ever made any sequels, it's perfectly fine the way it is. I mean, I think that first film, people are just going to keep revisiting until the end of time. Now, Scream 2, I really enjoyed Scream 2. I was spoiled going into Scream 2 years ago. A friend of mine actually somehow got a bootleg VHS of it, and I wasn't able to see it in theaters. I was too young, and I asked my friend, I said, can I borrow the VHS? Now, again, bootlegs of films back in the 90s were horrible. They were horrible. You get a bootleg now, it's this HD, like, just rip of the film. Like, whereas a bootleg then, I remember this VHS tape just being god awful. Like, it was all distorted, and it just looked terrible. It was horrible, but it was like also mysterious, because I put it in and watch it. I'd be like, everything looks all screwed up. The sound quality is terrible, so I can't tell what anybody's saying. The killer reveal was like really creepy because, again, it just looked terrible. So it made the film even more of a unique watch. But I really like Scream 2. I think they did a good job. It's probably the best sequel, mainly because it's the first sequel. It came out and was solid. Sidney Prescott's great in it. Again, great cast of characters. I think the twist is really good. I like that it's Billy's mother. I like that it's a homage to Friday the 13th. And Mickey's great. I think he's an underrated character. He's not in it a lot, but, when he's revealed to be one of the killers at the end, he does a great job. And, yeah, I think Scream 2 is the best sequel. It's for the sheer fact that, like, it's made right after the original, so it just feels like the natural next step. Uh, yeah, I love the concept of Stab and them making a film about, the real life tragedy of Sidney Prescott. I just think that that's such an interesting commentary on, well, that's what happens in the world. Bad shit happens to people, and companies, movie studios, people just try to capitalize on it. And I think that film handled it really well. Uh, And Scream 3, sorry, my eye is like twitching. I think it's because it's been raining for like 24 hours, and luckily the sun came out when I got to the STU MACHER house. But I think like my eyes are just like adjusting to everything, and I'm talking a lot. So since I'm driving around by myself, I'm rarely talking. So this is kind of weird. But honestly, Scream 3 is the one film in the franchise. I've never disliked it. I thought it was goofy. Again, I was spoiled on that. I didn't see a lousy bootleg VHS of it, but by the time I saw the film, I had been spoiled. Which is weird because thinking back, I was spoiled on who the killer was, and I was spoiled that there was only one killer, that it was Sydney's like half brother. But I thought it was the person who told me who the killer was, they told me that it was the Patrick Dempsey character. Like, so when I would watch that trailer, I was like, okay, well, I know he's the killer. He looks intense. He looks creepy. There's something eerie about him. So when I finally saw the film, I was shocked when Ghostface takes off the mask and it's this Roman guy. I was kind of like, wait, I thought it was, you know what I mean? Like, so even though I was spoiled on the film, I was generally surprised anyway in my own unique way. But I was also kind of let down because the whole time I was watching it, I was just thinking, oh wow, it's going to be this detective. He's Sydney's half brother, and he's the only killer. So in the end, I was kind of like, oh, I don't think Roman. I just don't think he just doesn't have the look, you know. But he's fine. Again, Scream 3 is the one sequel that I enjoy more and more over time. I think it's fun. There's a campiness to it. I love the LA setting. I just think there's a lot of really cool little details and Easter eggs. But yeah, and I just think I'm personally like when I watch it, it is ridiculous that there's only one killer. Like, there's so much that doesn't make any sense with Ghostface being here and able to do this, and so I watch it and I personally think, oh, he had an accomplice. I think it was the one girl. The name of the character is I can't remember it this moment, but the girl that was playing Sydney in Stab 3. Like, obviously, it was her, like an accomplice. And I think at the end, when Ghostface kills her, I think that, yeah, I like to think that that was his accomplice. That way it makes sense of Ghostface being able to do so many crazy things, kind of all at different times. And Roman just decided to kill her at the end, like, hey, you're out of here. Um, and I like to think that way. Like, I think like it's kind of clever too, because it's like, all right, there are two killers, but the movie doesn't need to reveal a second killer and waste time. It's almost like a fun little like Easter egg, like you can discover it on your own. Like, hey, I think that she was the accomplice, and it's kind of interesting because she's playing Sydney in Stab 3, so it's interesting that it's Sydney's half brother and the girl who played Sydney. Like, I don't know, there's just something really weird and interesting about that. So that's how I choose to look at it. Um, but yeah, Scream 3 I like. It's fun. It's probably the most rewatchable Scream from just a, hey, put it on and laugh and have a good time. Whereas like Scream 1 is so good, it's almost like I want there to be time in between watching it, you know? And it just started raining, by the way, so I don't know if you can hear the rain. I got my mic, but it's raining a little bit. So still beautiful around here. So, Scream 3. I like it a lot. I think it's a good close to the trilogy. If you're going to give Sydney somewhat of a happy ending, some closure, you know, she defeats Ghostface, finds out a little bit more about her mother, and it just feels like that whole story expands a little bit. Like, not too much, but enough to where it just makes the legacy of Maureen Prescott, Sidney Prescott, and Ghostface, it just all feels a lot more like fleshed out and interesting. And again, it's not necessary. I can understand why a lot of people don't like it. The Roman character's not particularly strong, and it feels a little like a retcon. Like, oh, he told Billy Loomis about, you know, his mom and dad and blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. Upon rewatch, I like it. And the way it ends with Sidney defeating Ghostface and just that door being left open and Sidney just presumably with Patrick Dempsey's character, the detective, and Sidney and Gail, or excuse me, Gail and Dewey getting together and Dewey proposing. I loved it. It's like a happy ending. If you choose to go, you know what, like the Scream franchise is 1, 2, and 3. I think that's a good way to lead off. But I will say, I love Scream 4. Scream 4 is probably my favorite sequel. I don't think it's better than 2, just because, like I said, 2 is it's the first sequel, and I think it still feels, it has like a horror movie strain, whereas like the fourth one kind of, it carries on from 4 with it's got a little bit of campiness, and the way it looks, it almost has this like TV movie glow to it. I don't know. But I love 4. I went into 4. I wasn't spoiled, and I think 4. I was generally shocked in the theater when I saw 4. I think the twist with Jill, I think, was brilliant, and I think the marketing, that's the thing, like the marketing with that film, leading you to believe that, yeah, this is a passing of the torch film. It's not a remake, but it's Sydney's in it, but she has a cousin, and the cousin's, the main character with her friends, and Ghostface is targeting them. It just felt like, okay, like there was no reason to think that Jill was the killer. It just felt like, oh, this is a passing of the torch film. Sydney might die at the end, or Sydney might be the killer. I think that was my big prediction then. I think I was like, oh, I think Sydney may have went nuts and, been the killer. But yeah, so that's pretty much what I thought going into the film. I thought, okay, going into the film, thank you. Going into the film, I thought Sydney could very well be the killer, or she like went crazy after the events of, in the 1, 2, and 3. But but no, like I was generally shocked. Sorry, I'm just driving. There's some construction happening. I just gotta keep the eyes on the road. This is the first time I've ever set up and recorded like anything with this, you know, car device and my microphone. So anyway, Scream 4, I love it. It was fresh, it was exciting, and I will say this, because a lot of people I talk to, they just feel like, oh, Gail or Dewey should have died in 4. But you know what? I remember being in the theater, being so relieved that Gail and Dewey both survived. Because it gave the film this feeling of, oh, this is just a cozy, like, bonus Scream movie made by Wes Craven. It's like, hey, you got the trilogy, but part 4 is like that feel-good follow-up. It kind of, by the end, I was just like, great. I'm glad Sydney didn't die. I'm glad Dewey and Gale didn't die. I'm glad none of them were the killers. And I was generally shocked with the reveal. I mean, my only gripe with 4, my only, like, issue with it is that it is just absurd. Like, Ghostface is running around the whole movie looking like this tall, like, formidable foe. And then at the end, when Jill steps out and, stabs Sydney and then she pulls off the mask, you're like, Jill's like 4 foot nothing. And Charlie is also just this little guy. I'm like, I get it. Like, movie magic and suspension of disbelief. But, like, if you're going to do that, you know what? Like, okay, Jill, I get it. She's a shorter girl. But, like, Charlie, give him, let's go, we're going to go this, wait for this car. I would say give him, like, platform shoes or something. Or, you know what? Just film him on a soapbox. Like, have his character look taller and lankier. So that way, at the very least, when they do the Ghostface reveal, you could buy into the whole, okay, well, one of the killers was taller, so then when you're watching the movie, you could go, okay, well, maybe it was him or whatever. But that's my only gripe. I know it's the only thing where I feel like there was an easy fix. Wes Craven and the team could have easily, just filmed Charlie and Jill, like film them to look a little taller, so that way it's not as ridiculous. But then again, if you were going to watch these films, I have a new appreciation for these films the past year or so, because I kind of watched the sequels, and there is this meta quality that each one possesses, and I kind of feel like, especially by 4, certainly in 3, but by 4, it's almost like the fact that, like, the 2 Ghostface killers are just short teenagers, and it's kind of absurd because you're like, well, Ghostface is clearly running around tall. It's almost a commentary on, like, yeah, the remake is never as good as the original because there's just absurd, nonsensical things that, it's a bumpy road, but it's beautiful out here. Cows, sheep, horses. But anyway, yeah, I love Scream 4. Again, Scream 4 is like, to me, a perfect bonus movie after 3. Like, you could just stop at 4 and be like, okay. And I kind of like that we don't learn much about Sydney. Like, does she have a boyfriend? Does she have a family? I know a lot of people are frustrated because they're like, oh, like, it's inconsistency. It's a plot hole that Sydney never mentioned that she had a family in 4. So how does that make sense? It makes sense because she's on a book tour and her family just wasn't involved, and maybe she didn't, whatever. I don't have a problem with that. In my head canon, I just think kind of like 3. My head canon, Roman had an accomplice, and it was it Christina? Is that her name? The girl who played Sydney, and it was her, and he killed her, and it's like an Easter egg to kind of be like, hey, there's whatever. So kind of like with 4, I'm like, well, yeah, like she had a family, she has a husband. It's Mark. It's supposed to be Detective Mark. That's another thing. Going into 7, I'll get to 7. Anyway, what do I think about 5 and 6? I really like 5 and 6. I remember feeling kind of underwhelmed in the theater in 5 because it just felt like such an obvious requel. Like, oh, it's basically, we basically want to make a remake of Scream, but instead we're going to do the whole, like, well, it's a sequel, but it's really the same story. It's the same, similar setting, similar everything. But I thought the film commentated on requels really well. I liked the way the third act opened up. I thought, again, with Richie, with Jack Quaid, the whole time I'm just thinking, well, if he's not one of the killers, I'm going to be really bummed because he's probably the best actor in this film, and it just would be cool to see him go from like the loving boyfriend to like the psycho at the end. And so I was happy. I was just relieved. I was like, good, Richie's one of the killers. I thought Amber was pretty good. I liked her. I liked that movie more and more upon rewatch. And again, I just like the whole commentary on requels and sequels that are they're also remakes and whatever. I just thought that was clever. It makes sense. I like that it was 2 fans of the Stab franchise. I really feel like the Stab franchise and the way Stab incorporates into the Scream films, we need to let that go. I think 5 was like the ultimate conclusion to all of that. Like, the killers are finally, they're just Stab fanatics who want to, I don't know, bring the Stab franchise back to its former glory. Even though you watch Scream 2 and it's like the scenes from Stab 1 that they show are silly as fuck. I mean, they're just silly. It doesn't look like a great horror film. It looks like a Hollywood, hack job. That I think that's the point. That's why Scream 2, I like the way Stab is incorporated into Scream 2, because Stab's meant to just look like Hollywood, exploiting real life tragedy and making some schlocky nonsense movie. But then by Stab, or Scream 4, it's like, oh, the Stab franchise, there's 7 Stab movies and they have a cult following. But even in that movie, it's like, okay, they're all kind of schlocky. But then that's why in 5, it's like kind of weird that Richie and Amber would be so passionate about the original Stab because it just looked like schlock. But whatever, it's still commentary on like toxic fandom and how, again, I love that it is a great parallel to the original film in that someone's taken their love of scary movies one step too far. So Richie and Amber did just that. So I thought it was fine. I hate that Dewey was killed. I think that was very effective in the film. I don't like it. I think it's a real shame. And not only do I not like that Dewey was killed, but I don't like that Dewey and Gail were divorced. And I don't like that Dewey was just this loser, ex-cop, ex-sheriff. I just think that was all unnecessary. Like, if you're going to kill Dewey, they should have just made Dewey and Gail still together. Maybe she was doing a show in New York and she was like away from Woodsboro, doing her show, but they were still married and in love, and Dewey was just left in Woodsboro to either still be the sheriff or a cop, or maybe he did get fired, and maybe Gail just didn't get back to Woodsboro on time to help Dewey, Like, I don't like that. It's like too sad and miserable, especially coming after 3 and 4, where I love that Dewey and Gail get together. I love that 4, they're still together. It just would have been cool to see them have a kid too, that maybe eventually gets involved in the Ghostface, whatever. I don't know. I like 5. I think it was good. I think 6 is nonsensical. Like, I feel like everything that happens in it is just crazy, but I like it. I like 6. I think 6 is a good follow-up to 5. I think I like the New York setting, even though they don't show the Statue of Liberty. They don't show like any It'll show Times Square. It feels like a fake New York movie, and I can't stand when they do that in films in general, when they film somewhere, and yet it doesn't feel like they filmed it there. It could have been any city, but nonetheless, I thought Scream 6 was a good time. I like that it's Richie's family. I like that. Uh, I like that it's a parallel, almost like a requel of Scream 2. It makes sense because it feels like, I know we're not getting a Scream 7 with the Carpenter sisters, but if we did, I would think that that would be almost like a requel of Scream 3. So then you could kind of take these three movies, 5, 6, and 7, and be like, oh, that's the requel trilogy. Like, I just kind of like that. I like that, but whatever. I mean, there's just so much in 6 that I feel like just doesn't make sense. Like, just how Ghostface operates, Quinn's fake out death. There's just things where I'm like, but I will say again, like I said, I have a newfound appreciation for the Scream sequels, and I kind of like that 6 in its ridiculousness and nonsensical kind of like plot holes and whatnot. I like that it's almost like it's meta commentary on horror franchises in general, and how, yeah, by like the 6th movie, where there's always nonsensical things, and Ghostface, the killer, in general, can just do weird, crazy things that don't make sense. So I didn't mind it. I thought it was really good. It was a really good follow up to 5. Um, and I personally would like to have seen one more with the Carpenter sisters afterwards, especially because we never got to meet Sam and Tara's mother. I think that would have been a really cool story. I really think that if we got to see the mother, it would have maybe been interesting if she was somehow involved in the original killings in '96. Like, I think there was a lot of opportunity squandered by not following up 6 with Sam and Tara, but whatever. It is what it is. That's the thing. All these, I'm not going to get into all that controversy and whatnot, but I'll just say that there's we could totally end up getting another Scream movie with Sam and Tara eventually. Kind of like we thought Sydney was done. She wasn't in 6. And now here we are, and Sydney's the star of 7, and she might be in a few more after that. Who knows? So I just think, to the people who really want to see Sam and Tara again, I would just say we may. I mean, I wouldn't worry about it. So that's all I'm going to say about all that stuff. I'm not interested in discussing the controversy or any of that. But anyway, 5 and 6 were good. It was a good spin-off, requel, 2-movie kind of, double feature, and I am excited for Scream 7. I'm excited. Um, what do I think is going to happen? Have I been spoiled? There's a lot of leaks out there, and I will say, yeah, I have been spoiled a little bit. It sucks because I would rather not be spoiled. It just happened, you log on to social media, somebody posts this, and you're like, oh, shit. And I couldn't help myself. I read some things, mainly because I thought they weren't true. I was like, well, how could these leaks possibly be true? It was like months ago, and I'm like, how does anybody know? I will say this, though. In regards to Stu, again, I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to get into the leaks, but I will say this. Part of me wanted to read the leaks and kind of have an idea of what's going on, because I don't want to be watching the movie all excited, like, oh, Matthew Lillard's back, Stu's back, and then at the end be like, because there's a really good chance that this film is going to be really good. I think it's going to be solid. I think it's going to be well acted. I think it's going to be clever. Marco Beltrami is coming back to do the score, which I'm very excited about, because, I like the music for 5 and 6, but it just doesn't sound like the other films. So I'm hoping that the Scream 7 score can sort of be most like 1, 2, and 3. So I'm very excited for Scream 7. So in regards to Stu Macher, I don't care if he's alive or whatever. I don't. I never thought that he was alive. I never ever watched 1, 2, or 3 and thought, I bet he survived. I never once thought that. I wasn't until 5 when I would start following like other horror YouTubers that I noticed, a lot of people were theorizing that Stu could have survived Scream 1 and that he could return and be 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 the killer or be like a mastermind or somehow be involved in all these other films. And obviously in 5, a lot of people are upset that Dewey was killed by Amber. So people just are hoping that not only is Stu going to be revealed to be alive, but he's going to be, he's the one that killed Dewey and he's the one that went after Gale in part 6. I don't think any of that's going to happen. And I'm not going to speak on the leaks or anything. I personally I don't think that Stu's dead. That's what I think. He's not alive. His involvement in this new film, I think, is going to be smoke and mirrors. I'm hoping it's clever. I'm hoping that it's really sharp and interesting and a good commentary on like today, like with AI and deep fake trickery and all that stuff, because that stuff is terrifying. And not just in the movie industry, it's terrifying in pretty much everything now online. I'm like, you can't trust anything you see. You just can't. You can't. It's very scary and weird and manipulative, and it feels like creepy. Like I feel like we're in a new age of like scamming, and I kind of think that that's what the new movie is going to commentate on. And I think the killer is going to be using that to screw with Sydney and her daughter and the family. So I'm very excited for Scream 7. I look, if Stu is revealed to be alive, they better do a good job. Like they better explain it very well. They better make us believe that, okay, yeah, like he survived not only getting stabbed a bunch of times, but also having a giant friggin' TV fall on his head and squash it like a grape. I mean, come on, like that's the only thing. If Stu's alive, I'm more concerned with them like coming up with a story that's gonna make me buy that he survived. Like, whereas like if he's revealed to be dead and the killer's just using AI trickery or whatever to like resurrect Stu, etc. I'm way less worried about that. Like to me, like that sounds great. Like I still want the killer. I still want, if that's the case, I want the killer to really make sense of how they got voice samples from Stu Macher to like manipulate his voice, to make his voice and use his voice and all that. Like I don't want it to just be, I used AI, like whoever it is, like, to make videos of Stu Macher and to mess with Sydney. Like no, like you have to. I hope it's well written in that regard. That's okay. Another gripe of 3. Again, yeah, the voice changer in Scream 3 is nonsense. The movie doesn't do a very good job at all of like making you understand how that technology works, why Roman in particular has access to that technology. I know there's a deleted scene where Ghostface is like creating the Sydney voice. I've seen it. It's okay. I think if that was left in the film and like cleverly edited into the story, I think that could have helped and went a long way. Because at the time, I remember I was like, well, that technology, if it does exist, it's not something that the average Joe can do. So yeah, that film, that's one big strike on 3. Even though like 3's so goofball at times, it's like I just let it go. But what I'm saying is, I hope that's not the case with 7. I hope that if it is just, if Stu returning is either AI or some sort of like enhanced voice changer or whatever, I hope they explain it well, and I hope they make sense of like how the killer is able to recreate Stu's voice and his face and all that stuff. Or anybody, if any of the other actors return who are presumably dead, I hope that they're able to make sense of how they got their voice. So, but yeah, Stu being back. Look, if Matthew Lillard, if Stu is alive in this film and it's revealed, and that's going to be really exciting. But I just, man, they could totally fumble that. So all you people who want Stu to be alive and you're hoping Stu's alive, well, what if he is revealed to be alive, but they don't do a good job at all of explaining where he's been, how he isn't all screwed up, and I don't know. I'd rather them just, you know what, reveal that he's dead, have the killer be kind of going all Texas Chainsaw Massacre and basically wearing the faces of the past killers. I think that's fascinating and interesting. So I'm excited if that's the case. But yeah, I hope that Sydney's husband's character, Mark, not Detective Mark from Part 3, I hope that he's a good character. I hope he gets a lot of screen time. I hope that by the end of this film, I hope we like Sydney's family, because obviously that could kind of make or break this film. You know what I mean? Like if Sydney's daughter is just annoying or not well written, like I think that could really make this film uh, just fumble. I think it could go down the toilet if we come out of the film and we're like, well, again, the third attempt at like a passing of the torch film, and we don't like the lead. I mean, Jill was good. That's why the twist was so great that she was the killer. And I thought Sam and Tara were really good in 5 and 6. I thought they were perfectly fine. I mean, I know a lot of people think that Sam was a little stiff in 5, but I like them. I think they did a fine job. They're beautiful. So it's like, okay, you got two beautiful leads. Uh, I'm just kind of concerned that we ditched those leads to pass the torch to somebody that's like unproven. We don't know, but I am excited. So those are my thoughts. Sorry, my eye is just bugging out. So I'm excited. I think the Scream franchise is solid. I don't think there's a bad sequel. I think the first movie is a classic. I love it. It's great. Um, I love the score. I love the characters. Billy and Stu, like they're the best. That's why I'm also kind of like, you know what? Like, if Stu is revealed to be alive in 7, it's like, what? We're gonna kill him again? Is Sydney? We're gonna have to. I mean, unless Sydney chops his head off, like in H2O with Laurie and Michael. Unless it's something like really cool and clever, it's like, well, I don't know. It just feels like I like watching Scream 1 knowing that Billy and Stu are the killers. Sydney defeated them, and then every sequel, every follow up to that film has its own mystery and its own killers and its own motivations. Um, yeah, so that's kind of what I prefer. But again, if Stu's revealed to be alive and he's involved somehow, or maybe he's not a good guy, but maybe he's reformed and the killer's trying to frame Stu. Maybe the killer. It would be clever if the killer discovered that Stu is alive, like found out, and that he's in some asylum or he's in a hospital ward. He's all screwed up, and that he's like low key just living out the rest of his days as this like just reformed loser. And then the killer is trying to frame him. That would be interesting. And then, but we find out at the end that Stu is alive, and maybe the events of this film spark Stu wanting to go after Sydney in the next one. I don't know, but either way, I'm very excited for Scream 7. I hope it's good. To all the people who are looking forward to it, just go it. Let's just enjoy it for whatever it ends up being. I mean, we have a great Scream original, 1996, and we have really good sequels. Um, I think we're going to get a really good sequel. I think that's what this is going to be. I don't think it's going to be better than the original. And why would it? Why would it need to be? So anyway, I got to get a drink of water and figure out where the heck I am driving to. But it was awesome that I got to see the STU MACHER house. It's a bummer that lady came out the front door and yelled at me. I would have liked to get a few more pictures and whatnot, but that's okay. I got a lot of footage and I got some great photos, and I'm so happy to have been there. I'm glad she didn't come out of the house and yell at me before I had a chance to do any of that, even though I probably would have, I had a good conversation with her. We smoothed things out. She understood, and I think she kind of felt bad for giving me a hard time. Once I told her I was traveling around the country and I only had this opportunity to stop by. But anyway, yeah, so have a great day. Get excited for Scream 7, Scream 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have a great franchise, and hopefully if, Scream 7 is going to be good, and if we get more Scream movies, hopefully they're good. I mean, that's what we want. So anyway, take care, and I will talk to you all later.